If you're looking for negative sentiment, Julie, you've come to the right guy because I have that for you. Now, here are 3 things you need to know right now. Be ready for a recession. That's the stark warning from Goldman Sachs senior chairman and former CEO Lloyd Blankfein, who said Sunday there is a, quote, very, very high risk for a U.S. recession. This comes as Goldman's chief economist Jan Hathaway slashed his U.S. growth forecast for this year in 2023 following recent turmoil in the markets. Meanwhile, Goldman's chief U.S. equity strategist David Kostin took his year-end S&P 500 target down to 4,300 from 4,700. Talk about bad things come in threes here, guys, from Goldman Sachs. But I really would point to Blankfein's comments first and foremost here. This is the first big bank CEO to come out and warn about a recession. I would argue Jay Farner last week, Rocket Company CEO, told us he is banking on a recession. But when you get Lloyd Blankfein here, which is, he's still connected to the markets and plugged into what's happening, when he calls a recession, that's a big worry.
Well, he's sort of calling a recession, but he's also just saying, be prepared for the worst, which is also sort of, good chief executive advice, I suppose, right? Be prepared for the worst. He said we could avoid a recession, but if you're running a company, you want to be in a good position if we are going into a rocky period.
And really bringing into the conversation the supply chain headwind that still lingers right now, noting that while some inflation will go away, supply chains, bringing that back in, and then additionally, you've still got the COVID lockdowns in China that's certainly impacting the broader kind of globalization restart effort, even to make sure that there is some of that supply chain that gets ultimately resolved. But I think at the end of the day, one of the other things that he mentioned, some of these things a little bit stickier, energy prices, that particularly continuing to be one of those shocks, price shocks for consumers as well as businesses that really have to monitor their energy spending as well.
You should have mentioned deli meat prices. My brother just told me this morning he paid $12.99 a pound for salami. I mean, it's ridiculous out there.
It was eggs last week. It's
eggs this week. I told you I'd be coming with something new. Hold on. Let me add this, Julie, too.
Please.
Let me go to Kostin's note, because I think that is alarming. Now, the headline here is that he slashed his...
David Kostin, who's a strategist at Goldman Sachs.
Now, he cut his S&P target of 4,300, but buried in his note, he said if we're going into a recession, you could see S&P 500 3,600. So that's a further drop from here.
Yeah, and that's after Jan Hathaway, who's the chief economist at Goldman Sachs, cut his GDP forecast. 2.4% this year is now what he's expecting. And 2023 is going to 1.6%. Oh, and by the way, our buddy Mike Wilson over at Morgan Stanley.
On the show.
Do you think he came out with a super bullish note?
Nope.
No. Mike Wilson is yet more bearish now. While you've got Kostin saying, what's the number that Kostin put it at?
3,600 if there is a recession.
Well, Morgan Stanley's Mike Wilson coming out and talking about we could see a slump to as low as 3,400. He says valuation and technical support would be at that level. And then he said we'll get to 3,900 by next spring. And by the way, I don't think that he is baking in a recession to that scenario. I think he's saying this is going to happen even if we don't enter a recession.